Good afternoon. This is Mark at the Wicked Edge Expert Corner Group. And if you're viewing me on YouTube for the first time, I'm a Wicked Edge user, lover, everything Wicked Edge from when I first started with it. And I have here the opportunity today because I'm working on them, but I was able to borrow a Wii 50. I have a Wii 100. This is a original Wii 60. It gives me the opportunity to talk about different models and how the parts developed, how they improved, how they changed them to get better functionality out of them, and what I do. See, the things that I do, like adding riser blocks and stable risers and putting a vise where it wasn't normally supposed to be. I play with it because I like to get the most out of each of them, and I have the opportunity to do that. And it makes them more effective. And let me give you an example of that. This is the new standard vise. Looking at the height, this is the guide rods. I don't have any here right now, but the guide rods fit here. And the stone is even with the jawline. So that means that when I start to sharpen that knife, I'm starting with the opportunity to use that stone to its fullest. At the same time, because of that, it improves the ability to adjust this, to dial it in, to slide this, and more precisely get your measurement if you choose to work at that level of precision. I choose to work with the cube, and the elevation makes it easier for me to dial in the settings. And that's not just an observation, that is a fact, because it expands the triangle, and that we discussed in an earlier video. So this is the Wii 60. The original Wii 100, when I started, the numbers mean something, but they don't necessarily go in order. The Wii 100 was before the Wii 50 and the Wii 60 in release dates, in my experience. So when I started, there was the Wii 100, which was like this, with the standard vise. And just like I sharpened this practice knife yesterday to 600 grit and tested it on a best tester to, I think it was 150, which is a level that you should expect a high-end chef knife to come to you out of the box. So it's sharp for an inexpensive knife. And I have others. And I call this assault sharpening. We assault sharpen this, and we're going to use this and these is to go further forward and talk more about sharpening. What I mean assault sharpening, because we chose an angle and we just put it on here without any thought of how it was sharpened from the maker. I like to sharpen knives. That's match the edge and sharpen a knife as it was made, not change it without ever using it. Another story. Okay, so 100 was the first one. In order, like I do, I didn't learn this myself, like I do to make it taller, Wicked Edge did the same thing when I was coming aboard, when I first started, and that was the Wicked Edge 120. They made it taller. They had the brackets like these that slid on here. I didn't bring everything out. And this was closer But the brackets, as you can see here, they're pretty tall as compared to the standard vise. And even if it had a riser on it, the proportions of all these are the same. Even with the riser on it another inch, it's still not at the level of this one with the extra blocks that I add. Okay, this is the Wicked Edge 120 where I started. About a year after that, Wicked Edge introduced a new vise. Whole different geometry with a longer square bar and taller, and that did what I seek to do today with all of my accessories that we have for the different models, to make the geometry that Wicked Edge came with the taller vise. And it was a new, better, centralized lever rolling cam clamping system on their Gen 4. Gen 3. The Gen 3 was the top of the line back then, just like the Gen 4 that I worked with yesterday, sharpening that knife in the demonstration. That Gen 4, which is a beautiful sharpener, each generation steps up, and they step up all the things that I offer aftermarket to users of an investment, which works great. Just bump it up. You know, add a little riser, stable riser, and it makes it just that much easier to get 150 test at 600 grit, which is not anything special. If you're a Wicked Edge user and you got it, you figured it out, your stones are broken in, that's important, because you're never going to get consistent edges that you'll be able to feel that what you're doing is giving you that product, that sharpened edge in return. It's not until your stones are broken in and they're consistent. I'm saying it again. When they're broken in, they will behave consistently. So each knife that you do, you'll be able to see 2, 3 knives in a row that are just as good. So it's not a fluke. So you got it. That's when you know that you figured it out. That's when the simile, riding the bicycle. Now, you can't undo that, but you can learn more and add more to it. Well, that's what I try to do here, is add more to it, and sometimes I give you too much all the time, all at once, and it complicates it. And I'm trying to do sharpening videos to get back to basics and not at such a high level of precision. With the opportunity to show you how rudimentary, but it worked. It slid, but it was tall next to the vise. So we tried to put a riser on it. Well, now I finally have this one. This WE 50 is the only model that Wicked Edge, in my understanding, it's the only one with the vise that attached from the top down. The standard vise mounted from the top down. And it was a little wider side to side. But it worked the same, the angles were the same, everything was the same. And this unscrewed and went in a pouch and rolled up, and it was a very cool kit. But it wasn't the first one, because they had prior to that, like a Wicked Edge 100 with the square bar on this mount. I hope you all are keeping up with me. This was called the Field and Sport with the Wicked Edge 100. And then there was the Field and Sport Pro that had a taller base with a wider wing on it. You clamped it. You clamped it through the hole. So this, I'm trying to show you, Wicked Edge's been doing this for a long time with all these different things, trying to offer like the perfect combination that fits people's needs. and they have tried different types of compact designs, and it's hard to get away from the fixed angle that Wicked Edge utilizes to give you that kind of sharp edge that I got on the practice knife with. I was talking and all, but it was, an hour of sharpening. If I was doing it myself, it would have been from start to finish about 15 minutes with a set of broken in stones that's fresh and ready to go. The stones that I'm using are older stones, and I'm using them because I want to experience them. Anyway, so there is the Field and Sport, the bigger one, the Field and Sport Pro. Came with the Wicked Edge 130 vise with the T-base in a box with all the different. It was like a pro pack, all in a little plastic case. I had one once, and I shared it with the guy in Australia, and I regret it because I've never had an opportunity to see one again. So a little bit about that. So because of the shortness, we looked to put the riser blocks on it. Then we learned through using Wicked Edge why they did it and how when they got bigger with the triangles, it was easier to work with it. So I learned all this stuff from Wicked Edge, and then I figured out ways of accessorizing them to get the more out of them. Now, at the same time that you elevate it to make it easier to adjust, it does shift the angle to the low angle range, and instead of it saying 15 to 30 degrees, it becomes something more like 15 to 26 degrees. It shifts it depending upon what you do in the risers. So what we had the opportunity, I'm going to try to tie this all together, that in 2025, Wicked Edge went from this standard vise, which is a great engineering vise and it works well, but it sucks to work with. I hate to say that, and I don't, but it's true. And they came out with the new vise, which is, I call it twin clamp vise because it's two clamps side by side, so it makes it very adaptable to clamping distally tapered knives and tapered blades of all kinds. The same geometry as the original, but it's centrally clamped. The nature of this clamp was one side was fixed and one side was floated, and it clamped by jacking one side out, which pressed the tips together. And that's how you clamp, by jacking it apart, it pinned it. So whatever the slope of one side of your knife was, it laid it flat. So if the knife was anything other than parallel, it gave it that little bit of an offset. So it was measurable and correctable, but it was difficult to work with when like I said, 150, 600 grit. It's not, it's just starting. We're working with 3,000 grit. I have 15,000 grit stones and 30,000 grit stones. 600 grit stone is where I would have started with that knife, because it's that kind of softness, just to make a point. The steel was that, it's that workable that it didn't need the 100 grit that I started with. But I started with it for demonstration, for lesson, for discussion. You don't have to start with your starting grit that you have in your box when you start a sharpening job. You know, it's not like a board game that you have to start at start. You start where you feel the scratch is appropriate for the steel you're removing. That's a learned lesson you have through experience that you gain breaking in your stones on beater knives you get from the thrift store. You know, then you have no idea what it is, but you get to explore with the different stones, trying your different sharpening strokes and working on it that way, which sharpening strokes leads me to what I'm trying to do here with tie all these things together, explain what we do at the Expert Corner. This made me think about, we were talking about this knife that we sharpened yesterday with edge leading, finishing it with edge leading down and on, alternate side, left, right, sharpening strokes at 600 grit, and then we finished it with a quick stropping. Real quick process. And I discussed how edge trailing may lead to a sharper appearing edge at the same angle. Well, now we have to explore it, and I have a bunch of practice knives. So we're going to talk about it, and we're going to look at each one of those things. Instead of talking about it, where I showed you flip-flop the burr so that you're sure that you've developed both sides the same and that you're ready to go and start applying a sharpened edge. And if you just have that basics on each knife, it may be further than you need to go, but at the start, if you do that on each knife that you sharpen, you have a good chance of sharpening very well. And you're going to catch on real quick and learn how to do it without being so thorough in drawing that burr and making sure it's felt across the whole knife and flips, and then so that you're thorough, that you know you have the burr. At the beginning, that's good to do that because then you do produce a very good sharpened knife. But as later on, you learn different things. And we're going to explore that. I thought about it and I said, I can't just leave it that I assault sharpened this practice knife. And what I mean by assault sharpen is I clamped it up how I would clamp it up and picked an angle, 18 degrees, and I sharpened it at 18 degrees with no forethought of what the angle is on this knife that came to me in the box with a wicked edge. And it says practice knife, but the practice knife cuts, so it has an edge on it. It has a bevel on it. I didn't use the opportunity to match it. And that's a lesson in itself that I'm going to explore on the video, and I realized that yesterday. And I have this here in all these different older models. So I wanted to take the opportunity to show you. The guy that had this, that sent it to me, was tired of knocking his head like we all did with the standard vices. When we got to sharpen, I keep grabbing this to show you how easy it is to produce that really sharp edge once you get the hang of it, once you have the knack. Then we started sharpening better and better and better, and we saw our work how effing good it was. And then we started looking more scrutinizingly, and then we started blaming the standard vise for the design, for the blade lean, and we worked with it, and we worked to the limitations. And he is still working to the limitations with this, with the standard vise when he posted recently, and I saw that and I said, send it to me. Let me see what we can do with it. So we discovered the 60, which is, like I showed you, there are other models that were compact fold up. This is cool because it's like an extruded one, and I never had the chance to see it, to hold it, but he did send it to me, and I found out that I could modify it, and I use that word. I don't like to modify things because modifying is permanent. It makes a permanent change, but I had his permission to drill it out to put the new standard vise that Wicked Edge introduced in 2025. The original 60 had the same kind of vise as this one had, the standard vise, which worked excellent as a vise. But like I said, it just sucked to use it because we got too good. We outgrew it. We learned how to sharpen so well that we saw the limitations of the clamping system. So some of us got pissed off at Wicked Edge and others of us used risers. And now Wicked Edge answered us. In 2025, they took the 60 that had the standard vise, and then they introduced the new standard vise on it with a different base that you don't see. It's underneath here. And I want to show you that, but I didn't want to start taking stuff apart and posing pictures, because if I'm going to take it apart, I'm going to take it apart and show you the change. I have this tap down, excuse my shoulder, but what I'm going to do is I want to, let me sit here, talk. I want to take this opportunity because, like I said, in my words, I'm a knife collector. And I collect knives because I love to sharpen knives. I just enjoyed it so much looking at it and talking about it yesterday on the video. You have no idea. I probably deleted three 1-hour videos before that last one, because I just lost my way, because I like to talk about so many things when I'm sharpening. And the way I sharpen this knife, I have practice knives. We have so many things we can explore with the sharpening. So just like that, I have the opportunity to explore the accessorizing of this and show you how I'm going to take this sharpener that the owner was like at wit's end. I think he has a better model. I think he has a Wicked Edge 130. I believe he's a real experience, and he's just pissed that this is such a, that's the dilemma. That's the paradox. They are machined so well, and they work so well, and I'm going to show you that after I shut up and I accessorize this. We're going to sharpen on another video a knife using this model, accessorized how I would, to show you how it's so easy to work with, just like the Gen 4 Pro. That's the whole point of making the video. But because I have all these things here, there's just so much to talk about, and what spurred it was that I don't want to miss the opportunity to explore the edge trailing and see if it does indeed make a sharper knife. We know what this one did at 600. We can do it again with this one now, with, instead of edge leading down and on after the scrubbing strokes, we can do it edge trailing and see what the results are. Because I state what I think is my experience, but I haven't done it in a controlled manner where I'm trying to prove a point or explore a point. Let's say explore a point, not prove a point. I expect that's what will happen. I don't know for sure, so we're going to explore it. But as long as I have the opportunity, we're going to set this one up that was sent to me, and we're going to use this one and try to use it at the level of precision that the Gen 4 Pro with the micro adjuster and a little bit of accessories allowed us to work with. Really a beautiful instrument. But this one I want to show you that you can at home with a few bolt-on, no modifications, get the enhanced ease of use, user ease of use to work at the level of precision that I'm able to work at. That lets me get so scrutinizing and try to decipher the sharpening strokes and the results and make statements instead of just, we've too long made anecdotal statements that I think, we should have some hard and fast rules that you can count on. So that's what I'm trying to do. At the same time, I have the opportunity to play with the different models. So I started to unscrew this and then sat down and talked some more. And what I wanted to show you is that this model has 2 screw holes and it's a solid base. In 2025, they came out with a new model that has a hole in the center that allows that, and it came with the new standard vise. And that new standard vise on this base was the new We60. And that new standard vise is like a game changer in ease of use as compared to the old standard vise. As a clamping system, I would venture to guess that this one clamps certainly as strongly or maybe more strongly than that one does. In fact, these clamp strong enough that with the hex key, you can clamp it tight enough that you squeeze the tip together that you can warp the tip. And that's been known to happen. So it really applies a lot of pressure. But they came out with the new base with the hole. And what that was for, that hole looked like this. And it was to accept the springs for the new dual cam vise that made that into a We64. The standard vise with the hole, new standard vise 2025 We60. Step up, spend a little more with the same base with that hole. Now they gave you the can full of the springs and the vise, and that became the Cobalt, the We64. And at the same time, they introduced the top of the line Gen 4 Pro, which was the dual cam vise on the pedestal base with the rotating gross angle that I used yesterday. So, trying to tie them all together. So, this one, like this one, like this one, the point I'm trying to make are where they are. They're sort of, with what you have, you can only get so good. And they're so good that the owner of this got was frustrating him enough that he posted a lengthy, wordy, very well written, and nothing angered, just vented about his dismay that it was limited. So I offer options, accessory solutions options. The solution for him was, it was easier to add a couple of holes to modify it than it was to try to engineer something around to use the same hole set. I didn't want to make like a removable base like you would use for a gun sight where you had one part and the other part. It just overcomplicated it. There's too much crap out there that's overcomplicated. With Wicked Edge, it is simple. Easy to use, simple. The Gen 4 Pro, it's simple. Underneath it, it may be complicated, but it's not. It's all really, some of it is pretty tricked, but it's simple. Anyway, I'm going to take this apart. I wanted to make a point to show you. See, this base, like his base, I cannot bore a hole in there, nor could Wicked Edge bore a hole in there to accept the can. So they had to make their own riser block and adapter that would allow you, with the proper screws, to use an upgrade kit that they offer. And so because of that, my risers are his Wicked Edge Clay's upgrade kit. My risers accept his kits and allow you to get a riser, get a dual cam upgrade kit or a standard vise upgrade kit directly from Wicked Edge when they have them available. And with his parts or my parts, you can start to build your own custom Wicked Edge to help you to use it better. Now, all that said, what I'm going to do with his is I am going to, and I'll may as well do it right here. Like I said, we have the airtime. I did not sit down over here planning to take that apart. Okay. So this new standard vise that we put on his vise is the same dimensions as a regular standard vise. So we're looking to augment the geometry of it to make it taller like this one. Now when we go taller with the riser block, that's what gave me the opportunity to put the receptacles or the receivers for the stable risers that slide into there to give me that support on the knife. So with his base drilled now, I wanted to find something that when it rested, when the stone rested, that would at least get it like this on the jawline. So we have to take up a lot of space. We're going to work with this vise, and so you know, they are both similar geometry. When this mounts, it mounts at this level. The can goes down in the hole. So the dual cam and the standard vise offer the same geometry. The Wicked Edge 60, the new Wicked Edge 60 with this dual clamp standard vise, or the Wicked Edge 64 Cobalt with the dual cam vise, they have the same geometry. It's just a better clamping, easier to use clamping system in the dual cam vise clamping system. Okay, so I'm going to have to stop this because I didn't come set up. We're going to build this and then put it on this base so that I can sharpen, go back and sharpen the same knife. No, not the same knife. I want to keep this for comparison. The same knife, practice knife, same model knife, on this system after I build it, and then we're going to sharpen it the same way with edge trailing so that we can compare them. We're going to test it. You know, as long as I suggested that I felt that that should be the results you should expect, then I should back it up. So I have the opportunity and I have the forum, the place to do it. So why not have at it? So I've mumbled through enough. I've tried to show you different models in different eras, and the old lost models, the Field and Sport Pro. I don't even have that here. And I'm honored to be able to play with them and talk about them. So let me sign off here and get my act together, and I'll make another playlist. Thanks.